should be live there. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into things. So, hey everyone, this is Consensus Layer Call 145. I'll drop the agenda here in the chat. And yeah, a number of things for Pectra, PureDOS, and a couple of other questions. So, let's go ahead and get started. To begin, let's look at Pectra DevNet 4. Is there any updates there worth going over? Any open issues or questions we should discuss at the moment?
So as of last week, there has been multiple different client fixes for those clients that were missing slots in the last weeks, and it seems like everyone is able to now propose blocks. There are still a few questions that we have open, but everything is under discussion.
Cool.
No major problems.
Good to hear. I guess a related point, do we want to discuss the public DevNet that we were talking about based off DevNet 4?
Yes. So we were going to announce this maybe in the end of the call, but I guess we can already announce it right now. So we have launched public testnet, which is going to be available for everyone to make deposits and exits and consolidations and everything. We had Genesis just 3 hours ago, and we have Electra getting triggered on it tomorrow on Epoch 256. Client teams can decide if they want to include this as a flag in their clients. We are writing right now a frequently asked question documentation where we're going to explain how to run a node on this network. But yeah, if any of the clients are up to adding this as a default chain configuration, they are welcome, but it's going to run approximately 3 months or possibly till we can fork mainnet. We will see. We expect it to be shut down by the end of the year, so it's not like a must-have. It's a nice to have.
Cool. Yeah, super
We
exciting.
we have 100,000 validators, and we have approximately 1,000 validator per client, so it's about 110 nodes. It's a fairly big network. It's also nice to do some stress tests here. And yes, this is based on Pectra 4 spec. So it doesn't have 7742 requirements yet. And everything that is running on Pectra Devnet 4 should be also working on this name testnet.
Cool. And we went with Mekong for the name, it looks like.
Yes.
Cool.
So we decided to use this name because the alternatives had some stem coins already running on it. So we didn't want to be affiliated with that.
Yeah, that's a good
Ideally.
call. Yeah. And you said there'll be like some documentation coming for, the community to engage with it.
Yes, we have one that's work in progress right now, so I didn't want to link that, but it's coming.
Okay.
And we have a general URL as usual to find all the links.
Cool. Thanks. Great. Then yeah, sounds like we're good on DevNet 4. We can move on. Anything else?
No.
Okay, cool. Great. Yeah, so we can move on then to DevNet 5.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's one more thing. So
Yeah.
we have been working in the background a bit to introduce a new tool that will be able to submit deposits and consolidation requests, kind of like what Launchpad does, but you can actually do a bigger deposit now that supports more than 32 ETH. And the consolidation request will also be part of this. So you will be able to test out how you can consolidate two validators. So this is going to help the community to run a test, basically, even without needing to run a validator.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, it'll be really nice to see it all come together.
Yeah, this is still work in progress, so we'll have something maybe by next week.
Great. Okay. Then on to Devnet 5. So there are a number of open items here. And yeah, I think a few of these I think we can get through pretty quickly. The first one is essentially just a last call on PR 3900. We had said a few calls ago that we would target DevNet 5 for this. And yeah, there's a little more discussion after that point, but it sounds like at this point that's all been settled. And yeah, I think everyone is generally in agreement to go ahead and merge this. So yeah, last call. And unless someone opposes, I think we'll move ahead with this. We could even merge it after the call today. I assume this +1 from Prism is for this PR. So, yep, in that case, cool. And yeah, I guess just like one caveat there is to like limit the scope of implementation changes. We were focusing on this change sort of just at the networking layer so that you didn't have to go through and change a bunch of other stuff in different layers of the client. So just be aware of that. Cool. Yeah, I've got some +1s, so we're good on that. Great. Next up, I did want to bring this question up. This was refactoring, kind of how we do timeouts and like managing peers. Uh, Again, in the past, there was support for this. My understanding is that we don't necessarily need like even a hard fork to coordinate this. I mean, I believe it's backwards compatible. Uh, can someone speak to that point? Who's been closer to this PR? Like, especially if it's backwards compatible, then I think we're good to go ahead and merge it now.
I think it's backward compatible.
Cool. Yeah, that's my understanding. Right. Okay. So then in that case, I think we go ahead and also just roll this into DevNet 5. And great. We have those. So next up, there were a number of, well, maybe I'll start here. So my understanding is that there is some demand to refactor the requests coming from the execution layer a bit further for DevNet 5. And there are some PRs that are tracking that in the consensus specs. And we can go ahead and get them, I think, in the next release or two pretty easily. But first, I just wanted to kind of do a temperature check. Um, and this is maybe even more a question for the ELs because I think some of the changes touched the execution layer a bit more. Um, do we have anything to address there? Do we feel like that change is moving forward well? I know Felix was driving a lot of this. I'm not sure he's here though.
For the execution requests, I think the big thing is just documenting all of the edge cases. The PR itself and the descriptions don't fully document all of the different edge cases that we have to deal with. Like if we get like a type and then we don't get the list or checking for uh, the max range of the requests, like how many you can include for the decoding, or if it's empty, um, or if it's out of order. Those things should be added somehow, especially because there's no spec test for this thing.
Right. So the consensus specs PR that I saw for this did have these checks, and it was, I think, pretty well handled. But yeah, it does sound then like things are moving forward. And yeah, I guess no one has any questions or points to raise about that at the moment. Okay. then we'll assume that's moving forward. So next up then, 7742. Just to remind everyone, this is the EIP to uncouple how we handle the blob counts between the CL and EL. And right, so this EIP has been included. It'll lay the groundwork for us to more easily make changes to the blob counts in Pectra, which I think there's plenty of demand to do that. The question that has come up in the last week or two is that, as written, 7742 is kind of missing a piece, at least potentially missing a piece around changing the base fee calculation. So right now, it's essentially a function of the target blob count. And especially if we change the target, that could have implications for the blob base fee and how it responds to these changes. Once we started getting into this, there's like a number of other questions that came up, and I think now we kind of have this question to answer of how invasive do we want to change this? Like, do we sort of aim for sort of a more elegant thing right now, or maybe do something a little more practical that is simpler to move forward and think about this work at a later date? So I guess I can go ahead and grab this update to the EIP. I'll put this here in the chat. So there are a couple options here. One of them is to basically just do nothing and not worry about how the target would impact the base fee here. Although even moving to say 4 and 6 would have some implications. I think next sort of simplest step would be to just go ahead and update 7742 so that the base fee scales with the target. This is what I'd call kind of the quick and dirty solution. I think it would work well for Pectra and is like pretty, it's not like a super invasive change. Then from there were some questions around revisiting how we, again, compute the base fee. So it's kind of tolerant to any max or target change. And that has implications for, again, sort of like the symmetry of how the base fee scales, either coming up or coming down from wherever we're at the moment. So yeah, I know, let's see, I don't know if Tony's on the call. I think he should be somewhere. I don't see him. But anyway, so he had a more sort of elaborated take on this. And yeah, I guess the question for today is just trying to get a sense of like how much we want to do now. I would say the EIP PR that I linked here, what is it, 8994? That one is like, I think, a pretty good balance of like, addressing some of these concerns for Pectra without being like too much of a big lift, so that 7742 becomes this like very complicated EIP. Gajender?
Yeah, hello. Is the audio okay?
Yeah, that's great.
All right. So yes, so for the symmetry, I mean, it's a very small change to include, and if we actually want the symmetry of gas changes while going up or down, I think we should include it. So and it wouldn't really make 7742 any more complicated than it already is. But it will introduce the max blob count to the header, because then it would be required to make sure that there is symmetry. And yeah, I think that's it.
Right. And so I think what I linked doesn't have the max, right? I think that's where we landed on that.
Yeah, we basically right now remove the max and only we have target blob count right now.
Right. And then, yeah, to get to like a sort of more nice solution, we would also need the max being sent over. So that's a question for CL devs right now, and also EL devs, whoever's here. Yeah, do we feel strongly about adding this field to the header, passing it through the engine API, and all the different places it needs to be? Ansgar?
Yeah, and I just wanted to very briefly explain for people, right? Because this might sound a little complicated, but the idea is very simple, right? If you only communicate the target to the EL, then in the calculation, you basically just don't know how much more room there is between target and max. And so you basically look at the target, and if the target is say 4, you just say, okay, 4 is the max. 4 is basically the you can have 0 blobs, 1 blob, 2 blob, 3 blob, or 4 blobs. So if you have 0 blobs, then basically you want to go down by 12% or whatever the maximum kind of change rate per slot you want to have. And that's fine and all, but if you don't know the max, then you don't know if the maximum is 8, then you're good, because then on the upside you also have like this maximum of 12% per slot that you can change. But if the maximum says only 6, like we had discussed for 6, for example, as a potential change, then all of a sudden you only have half of that of responsiveness to the upside. So now you only have 6% of a max increase in base fee per slot. And that means that now anytime there's a demand spike, your reactiveness is half as fast. Basically, you need twice as many slots to react to a new base fee level that you want to get to than you would otherwise. So basically, communicating the max together with the target would allow us to have an update rule of some sort. Kind of depends. Can be simple. Can be small change to today. Can be bigger change. But it would basically be able to take that into account. But if you only communicate the target, just conceptually, there's no way of knowing how much room you have between target and max.
Right. Yeah, thanks. And then, Ansgar, do you have a
In
sense
this,
of, oh, go ahead.
I would just want to add, in this, basically, I want to add that, the upside is basically limited, because actually the upside for max blobs that can be included is also limited. I mean, it basically reflects that. So if target and max are basically not symmetric, in the sense that this is just reflecting that, and in my eyes, I think this is just fine. We should be okay with a little bit of asymmetry. But yeah, so I mean, if this is a really desirable quality to have, then definitely we should go for it.
Right. I mean, I think, the ideal state is that, and so it is desirable, but I would kind of bias towards, again, sort of a good enough solution for Pectra. And we can always revisit a deeper change to the fee market in Fusaka along with Pirdas. So I think we have some room to be flexible here. Right. So, okay, I would lean towards moving ahead with this 8994 update here for 7742 for Pectra, and delay a more complicated change to a later fork. I suppose we can give people, well, I don't know. I'd like to go ahead and merge this to keep this moving. I think what would help is maybe having either like some sort of spec or EIP for the more complex thing, to have people sort of have something more concrete to like think about. But yeah, I guess, yeah. Does anyone feel strongly about this, or are we happy enough with sort of the good enough solution for Pectra? Yeah. Okay. Ansgar said he would like the max. And then otherwise, yeah. Okay. So then I think we'll directionally move ahead with 8994. And yeah, Ansgar, maybe I'll follow up with you to see if you think we can change something simple, like in a simple way. Cool. So then what that means is, yeah, I would hope to then have 7742, sort of the spec finalized in the next week or two. And then, yeah, as soon as we can get implementations, we can start testing this out. Yeah, I guess for DevNet 5, maybe some early experiments even before then. And yeah, can keep this all moving. Cool. There was one more thing for Electra, if there's nothing more to say about that for now. And I just wanted to get an update on the BLS precompiles. This is more of an EL concern, but we had kind of been discussing. There was a question around effectively the API for the precompiles, which I think we've kind of resolved. And then now the question was downstream of that, then doing the gas benchmarking to make everything work well. Does anyone here have any updates on that? And they may not, but I figured I would ask. I don't see anyone on the call who has been closer to this. So, okay, that's fine then. We can follow up async. So yeah, I think that's all we had today for Electra. anything else anyone wants to bring up?
If I may, just a quick thing.
Yeah, please.
I have yeah, thank you. So I have recently submitted a PR, which is the PR number 4000. Just send a link. Yeah, it's just basically this PR is about adding there is a couple of checks that we do while processing the voluntary exit, and they for some reason was not included into consolidation processing. And consolidation is basically consists of two steps. The first one is to make the voluntary exit, and it makes sense to preserve the same condition checks for consolidation as we do for exit, and we would kind of aligned with that, but for some reason those two have been missed, and this PR just adds them. And yeah, that's the quick announcement. Please take a look, because basically we want these to be part of Electra.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, please take a look. I will do the same. And yeah, just from a quick skim, this makes a lot of sense. And this is also something we should do in the next month or two, is just pass on all these things. Pectra has a lot of features. They all kind of interact in very intricate ways. So yeah, making a second pass on all of this is super valuable. Okay, yeah, thanks, Mikhail. So then we can move on to PeerDOS and any blob questions. I guess to kick this off, I will ask if there's any updates on the devnets. I heard there was something like 100,000 slot reorg on devnet 3, which is impressive.
So we had a message reorg like end of last week, I think, or beginning of this week. I'm not exactly sure when it happened. And we decided to shut down Devnet 3 because it was pretty much unfeasible to recover at that point. We had only Prism validating at this point, and only, I think, one Teku super node. So we decided to postpone a relaunch for after DEF CON, because everybody wants to focus on rebasing on top of Pectra, and that will take some time. And we would like to discuss whether we can include PeerDOS as Fulu named future fork, or can we stay, or should we stay at using the EIP75, whatever the number is?
I think it's 9.4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense of, just on the reorg, do you have a sense of like what caused it? Like, did some node eventually release like some data column that triggered this huge fork choice cascade?
Maybe someone from Prism can comment on that. I think the problem is that the people that are working on this on the Prism side are on holiday right now. So
okay,
I'm not sure if we would have anyone.
Yeah, all good. I'm just curious. That might be the deepest reorg we've ever had. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, so that tees us up to, I think, the agenda item here, which is moving ahead with this rebase. So I don't have the PR handy, but there is one to essentially, yeah, put the PeerDOS EIP into Fulu. And yeah, there was a bit of a holding pattern with when implementers were ready to do this and the timing there. I think at this point we should just go ahead and make the merge and go from there. Anyone feel that we should hold off for some reason? Right, yeah, I think it's 394 here. I looked at the breakout call notes from this week, and it said that we would discuss on this call. So my read was that basically people were ready to do this.
It would be nice to get some input. we got no input on the previous call. So
Right.
it would be nice if people have some opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we're gonna have to do this eventually. So I think if we can't get an opinion, then we just bias towards where we're ultimately trying to land, which is going ahead and putting this on top of Electra.
I mean, the question isn't whether we want to have it on top of Electra. The question is whether we want to trigger it as Fulu.
Sure. But what's the alternative?
The alternative is we keep it as EIP 7594 and we trigger it under that name. And we only include it in Fulu if we are 100% sure that Pios is going to make it into Fulu.
Right. I mean, that's generally what we've agreed to via ACD, and yeah, I don't see how that would be any different moving forward.
And also, if we activate it at Fulu, then on the ES side, that's going to activate Osaka, which will also activate EOF. So it would be good to be able to activate these two features separate in a way, so that we
Right.
don't have EOF problems in peer-test networks or peer-test problems in EOF networks.
Right. I mean, so couldn't on the EL, couldn't we just basically unset the EOF features so that they aren't responsive to Osaka, even if like there is Osaka fork logic?
Maybe EADEVs can comment on that.
Ideally, I don't know. I don't know if they're here. Okay. Yeah, I mean, to move us forward, like again, I would lean towards moving ahead with all of this, having pure DOS be Fulu, have it activate at Fulu, and yeah, this is a good point about EOF and or any like Osaka EAPs on the EL side. So we can definitely discuss this on the next ACDE. But yeah, perhaps in the meantime, I'll try to get some async information even in the next week and try to move things forward. But I guess what I'm hearing, at least from lack of input, is that there's no opposition to moving ahead on the CL in this direction. Okay. Then we'll move on to the next agenda item. Let's see. So I think we had, yeah, Lucas. I don't know if he's here, but he has an EIP for changing withdrawal credentials. I don't know if Lucas is on the call, but it's here. So yeah, I think the idea is essentially to have another type of like execution change message that would let you change your withdrawal credentials. We've discussed this stuff in the past, and I think generally the sort of consensus has been like handle this within the execution layer. So, have some withdrawal address that could then point to, a multi-sig or whatever smart contract where you then have the flexibility to like manage that policy there. But yeah, I guess let me grab the link to this, and I guess the ask for the moment is just to take a look. He did say in his comments that basically he's just looking for feedback, and it's very likely to be something in the future. But if you're interested about this, you could go ahead and put it on your radar. POTUS says it'd be nice to have them on the CL side. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, just a quick comment on that. So this proposal is actually yet another request that we used to have now, part of Electra, and we'll have the protocol. So it should be pretty straightforward thing, I guess.
Yeah, it is a really trivial change on the CL side as well, and I suspect on the EL it should be simple too.
Yep, because the complexity will be handled by the yet another system smart contract. As long as our request design is kind of good for, and good for extending it like from the EL perspective, and yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Well, that was pretty much it on the agenda. Is there anything else that anyone would like to bring up? Yeah, Giannis?
Hello, it's Yanis from ProBlob. One issue that relates to the blob scaling part, as you might know, at ProBlob we're crawling the consensus layer network, and then using that information, we have put together a tool that is probing basically all the different nodes to see what bandwidth availability they have. So that might be, we're going to have results soon, but that could be helpful to see, what is the ideal blob increase that should be targeted for the next upgrade, or perhaps the one after that if we're too late to have that. Again, we don't have results right now, so I cannot share anything. But hopefully next week and before DevCon, we're going to have something. So could be some topic to be discussed there.
Great. So you're crawling disk v5. This link here is to disk v5. And then I'd just be curious, like, are you looking at latencies or trying to infer bandwidth or something else?
Sorry, the infrastructure bandwidth, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Well, yeah, we'll be looking forward to the results there.
Yeah, I guess there is not going to be a call in 2 weeks, but at some point in the DevCon week, we could discuss about that. Relevant meetings.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, very quickly. I missed my turn. I jumped late, but I think you mentioned it already. I just wanted to put it here in the chat and so that it's that everyone knows about it. It's basically I quickly drafted it as an EAP, but I think we could add it to 7742, but we decided we wanted to keep it as simple as possible. This is fine. It's just a change that would allow us to move away from the from having the target of the blobs always be half of the max. So kind of if we want to do 4.6 instead of 3.6, then what we might end up with is some asymmetry when it comes to blob base fee scaling. Because currently the blob base fee can scale 12.5% in both directions. And I just wanted to, paste that EAP or this draft into the chat so that everyone can see it.
Thank you. Yeah, we covered this a bit earlier, and we kind of decided to move ahead with a simpler thing for Pectra. But I think sort of more, complex revisiting of this in Fusaka is definitely in bounds.
Yeah, this is fine. I'm fine with that.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, we can wrap a bit early. I guess two things to note then. One of them is that, yes, the call, what is it, on the 14th? So essentially the next ACDC, we're going to cancel. Everyone will, most of us will be in DevCon, so we'll have plenty of conversations there. And otherwise, yeah, if you're listening, we do have the launch of this testnet Mekong. That is sort of a preview of Pectra that's open to the public. And yeah, be on the lookout for that. And yeah, I think that's it. So we can go ahead and wrap up a bit early today. Right, blog post for
blog post, yep.
Yeah, the blog post for Mekong will be coming next week. So keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, yeah, we'll go ahead and close. And yeah, I'll see a lot of you at DevCon. Very excited.
See you.
See ya.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.